In the cold silence of deep space, billions of beings across thousands of star systems tuned into a broadcast that would change everything. It wasn't entertainment, wasn't politics, it was survival. The Galactic Science Council had declared a universal emergency message flagged in red across every communication channel. The title of the broadcast was simple but terrifying: Earth's Most Toxic Plants, a Galactic Warning. On Zenith 9 station, alien diplomats, traders, and scientists gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall, eyes wide, neural links open, translators. Ready? The screens flickered to life, and a Velcran biologist named Dr. Zayler appeared. His blue tendrils twitched nervously as he looked into the lens. All species. He began, his voice transmitted in hundreds of languages. This is not a political message. This is a biological warning. There is a small planet in Sector 049 Earth. It contains the most dangerous plants in the known galaxy. Do not touch them. Do not consume them. Do not stand near them without protective gear. A holographic image appeared behind him, showed a green leafy plant called spinach. Harmless looking but loaded with oxalates compounds that could crystallize in the bloodstream of most galactic species, leading to instant organ failure. Another image flashed cinnamon bark, containing coumarin, a chemical that could shut down liver function in 92% of life forms. Then came nutmeg, classified by the Galactic Archives as a Class 3 neurotoxin, causing hallucinations, seizures, and death in small doses for most alien biology. Presentation continued, each slide more terrifying than the last. Chili peppers with capsaicin, garlic with allicin, coffee beans with caffeine, a plant-based insecticide on most worlds. Dr. Zayler's tendrils quivered as he explained, these are not mistakes of nature. These are evolutionary weapons. Earth's plants are chemical warriors. They produce poisons to defend themselves from being eaten. But for reasons we do not understand, humans, Earth's dominant species, consume these substances daily. Do not just survive, they enjoy it. The assembly hall grew quiet, except for the soft hum of nervous breathing. Velcran scholars whispered among themselves. Aliga swarm leaders clicked their mandibles in disbelief. Even the stoic Graxian archivists blinked rapidly, their neural fibers lighting up with stress signals. The idea was impossible. Was supposed to be safe, neutral, a source of energy, not a biological death sentence. The broadcast showed live footage from Earth. A human named Elias Trent appeared on screen, smiling casually as he prepared a meal. He sliced raw garlic cloves, sprinkled them over a salad, and chewed slowly, savoring the sharp burn. He then bit into a bright red chili pepper, his eyes watering but his face still relaxed. Next, he drank black coffee, followed by a square of dark chocolate, both loaded with molecular compounds that were toxic by galactic medical standards. Dr. Zayler's voice cracked. This behavior is unprecedented. Humans call these substances spices or treats. They build cultural rituals around consuming them. Some even compete to eat the spiciest, most toxic versions possible for entertainment. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Some covered their sensory nodes to block the images. Others stared, frozen, unable to process what they were seeing. The broadcast continued, explaining that Earth's plants had evolved over millions of years. To fight constant biological warfare, insects, fungi, and predators forced plants to develop chemical defense systems. The plants became toxic, but instead of avoiding them, humans learned to digest them, building up biochemical defenses in their bodies. Human livers processed toxins faster. Their gut bacteria adapted to poisons, not just surviving but thriving on them. Their immune systems responded to dangerous compounds by becoming stronger. On screen, more footage rolled, a human child chewing dandelion greens in a backyard, completely unaware that the same compounds would cause heart failure in most alien species. Another video showed a human elder drinking herbal tea made from bitter roots, classified in the Galactic Archives as a Level 7 neurostimulant. Dr. Zayler's final warning echoed across The assembly halls of Zenith 9 and beyond. Do not share meals with humans without extreme caution. Do not import their plants or their food products. Do not assume your biology can handle what they call snacks. To them, it is culture. To you, it is death. The transmission ended, but the message remained suspended in the air like a heavy mist. Across the galaxy, leaders debated what they had seen. Some called it human propaganda, a strange attempt at humor. Others believed it was a misunderstanding, a cultural gap that could be explained. But in private, the scientists knew better. They had reviewed the data. The molecular signatures of Earth's plants matched the most dangerous compounds cataloged in the Galactic Poison Registry. The fact that humans consumed them regularly wasn't a joke, it was a biological mystery that no one could solve. And then came the real shock. Hours after the broadcast ended, Zenith 9's security cameras captured footage from the diplomatic dining halls. Elias Trent, the same human from the broadcast, was there, laughing with alien colleagues over a meal. On his plate was a small collection of Earth snacks, wasabi peas, jalapeno slices, and raw onion rings. The alien diners stared at him, horrified, but Elias didn't notice. He smiled, waved his hand casually, and popped another spicy snack into his mouth as if nothing in the universe could possibly go wrong. What no one realized was that this wasn't just about food, it was about evolution. The galaxy had just been given a glimpse into a terrifying truth. Humans didn't fear poison because they had been shaped by it. Earth's plants had taught them to survive danger by consuming it. And now, sitting there in that dining hall, Elias Trent was doing something far more dangerous than eating spicy food. He was breathing the same air as everyone else.
He was
Shaking hands, sharing microbial traces, leaving microscopic particles behind on every surface he touched. Without knowing it, he was already spreading the seeds of change. The aliens thought the warning had been about avoiding human food, but they had misunderstood the real danger. It wasn't the plants, it was the humans themselves. And somewhere, deep in the biolabs of Zenith 9, scientists began to realize a horrifying possibility. What if human biology was contagious? For the next 48 hours, Zenith 9 station remained in a state of silent panic. The footage of Elias Trent casually eating Earth's toxic plants was replayed in news feeds across thousands of star systems. The Galactic Science Council issued further warnings, but it was already too late. Curiosity had taken hold. Across the upper levels of the station, alien scholars debated in hushed tones. How could a soft-skinned species like humans digest biochemical poisons without collapsing? How did they survive foods that would destroy the nervous systems of most life forms in seconds? Some believed it was fake, a hoax, misunderstanding of human biology. But others knew the truth was far more dangerous. This wasn't an accident of culture. It was evolution itself doing something unprecedented in a secret laboratory on Deck 17. Dr. Velox of the Shalayak Medical Guild watched the security feeds carefully. Her multifaceted eyes blinked slowly as she zoomed in on the human diplomat. Elias Trent was still eating. Not for show, not for diplomacy, just for pleasure. His plate was a disaster to any other species. Capsaicin-coated peppers, raw garlic slices, bitter cocoa shavings, and pickled mustard greens drenched in vinegar. Each of those foods contained compounds that triggered violent reactions in alien biology, seizures, paralysis, organ shutdown. But to Elias, it was just a casual snack between meetings. Dr. Velox whispered into her comlink, "Begin the test." In the observation chamber next to her lab, a Velcrin volunteer named Silix shivered nervously. His task was simple but terrifying. Under strict medical supervision, he would taste a controlled sample of Earth plant material. A single molecule of capsaicin, diluted in a solution 1,000,000 times weaker than what humans consumed daily. Solution was prepared using triple filtration sterilization. It was safer, so they thought. A team of Shalayak surgeons and Graxian neurologists stood by, ready to intervene. Silix swallowed the drop. The first second felt normal, but then his sensory spikes twitched. His gut biome signaled an emergency response, except something strange happened. The emergency response stopped midway. His body adjusted. His enzyme pathways shifted. Instead of shutting down, his cells began to recode themselves in real time. His gut bacteria doubled in number, absorbing the capsaicin and breaking it down into harmless metabolites. His neural system sent out new protein patterns, mapping the experience, learning from it. Within 2 minutes, just as digestion stabilized, his breathing slowed, his vision sharpened. His cognitive readings showed a 12% increase in neural efficiency. Dr. Valox stared at the readings, stunned. "This is impossible," she whispered. It wasn't just tolerance. It was adaptation. By the time the Velcrin volunteer stood up, his physiology had already shifted. His enzyme systems now matched 6% of the human digestive profile. Change that should have taken thousands of years of evolution, but had happened in minutes. The source? His microbiome had incorporated traces of human gut bacteria. Picked up from shared air and surface contact on Zenith 9, these microbes were teaching his body to adapt, just as they had done for humanity on Earth for millennia. Dr. Valox sent the data to the Galactic Medical Council. The response came back immediately. Quarantine human biology. Isolate Earth species immediately. But even as the order went out, the medical teams realized it was already too late. The microbes had spread beyond control. They weren't just inside Silex, they were in the air, on handrails, embedded in the fabric of daily life. Who had shared a meal with a human, touched a surface they touched, or stood close during conversation had been exposed. On Deck 42, Ambassador Rax of the Graxian Archives ran his own private experiment. He had received a small package of Earth food, dark chocolate, chili powder, and cinnamon sticks. Against his advisor's warnings, he sampled a microscopic dust particle of cinnamon, the smallest dose physically possible. His medical team prepared for a collapse. But instead, Ambassador Rax felt his vision widen. His secondary cognition lobes activated. The neural pathways lit up. His digestive system processed the coumarin compound without harm. His gut bacteria, modified by days of contact with humans, had already adapted. The ambassador made a secret log entry that would later become famous. "We are not being poisoned. We are being upgraded." In the public dining areas of Zenith 9, the changes continued. Alien chefs, ignoring government orders, began experimenting. They mixed tiny amounts of Earth spices into fusion meals safely at first. The results were shocking. Species that had never tolerated chemical complexity before began to show improved immunity, faster wound healing, and better toxin resistance. Rumors spread fast. Earth's plants weren't just dangerous, they were training tools for life. But not everyone welcomed the change. On the lower decks, isolationist factions formed. Some aliens feared contamination, calling for immediate separation from human colonies. The Velcrin Purity Alliance shut down their markets. The Luminor health councils tried to sterilize their habitats, but their measures failed. The human microbial footprint was already everywhere in clothes and cargo shipments. Inside ventilation systems, the biology of Zenith 9 had been permanently altered. Meanwhile, Elias Trent continued his diplomatic work, unaware of the chaos unfolding behind closed doors. To him, the snacks he shared were just hospitality. He had no idea his gut bacteria were pioneering a galactic transformation. Dr. Valox reviewed more data in the medical bays. The microbial sequences showed something terrifying but undeniable. The human microbiome wasn't just defending against poison, it was sharing adaptive instructions across species barriers. It was rewriting biology in real time. Her colleague, Dr. Yolan of the Shalayak, whispered the words that no one wanted to hear. This isn't about food anymore. This is about evolution. In a final, desperate attempt to understand the process, the Council of 11 ordered an emergency summit. But the data was clear. It wasn't just the plants. It wasn't just the food. It was the human way of life, spreading like an idea, but acting like a virus. Forcing the galaxy into a new biological system where danger wasn't avoided, it was consumed and adapted to. The question was no longer, can we stop this? The question had become far more terrifying. What will we become next? In the weeks following the first taste tests on Zenith 9, panic spread faster than any government message. Official broadcasts still urged calm, but in the back rooms of every research station, alien scientists worked non-stop, trying to understand the impossible. Across the galaxy, biology labs locked their doors, coded their data, and ran experiments in secret. The results, however, all pointed to the same terrifying truth. Earth plants weren't the problem anymore. The problem was inside the alien. Bodies. Now Dr. Velox, along with her team in the Shalaic Medical Guild, gathered the confidential results into a single encrypted file called the adaptation sequence. She hadn't intended to make it public, but after running thousands of simulations, she knew there was no other choice. She shared the file with the Council of 11, warning them that the rules of life were no longer the same. Her findings showed that every alien who had spent time near humans, even without eating human food, now carried microscopic genetic changes. Gut bacteria, enzyme activators, and chemical signalers were being rewired at the microbial level. At first, the Council thought it was contamination, a lab error, a flaw in the equipment. But cross-checks from Graxian, Velcrin, and Zorith research centers confirmed the findings. The microbes were real, and they were everywhere. They weren't attacking alien systems, they were upgrading them. The adaptation sequence revealed that human microbes didn't just break down Earth's plant toxins, they taught other species how to do it too. The transfer wasn't happening through direct injection or surgery. It was happening naturally through shared air, surface contact, social interactions. Once inside an alien body, the microbes communicated chemically with native bacteria, sharing survival codes and rewriting enzyme chains. 1. Velcrin geneticist described it in simple terms for the Council: we are no longer ourselves. We are becoming something else. On the distant mining colonies of Sirix 9, strange things began to happen. Workers who normally struggled with poisonous air pockets started breathing more easily. Their lung bacteria shifted, neutralizing toxins that had killed hundreds of miners in the past. On Graxian transport ships, pilots reported better reaction times after consuming small doses of human snacks. Graxian medics discovered that these pilots' nervous systems were faster now, using newly developed protein sequences that matched human biopatterns. Meanwhile, the underground markets of Xenon exploded with demand for Earth plant products. Black market traders sold ghost peppers, cacao pods, turmeric root, and bitter greens under code names like bioshields and adaptation starters. People weren't afraid of poison anymore, or chasing it, hungry for the upgrades. It seemed to bring, but not everyone celebrated. In the private chambers of the Luminar High Council, biologists debated the risk of a biological cascade chain reaction where life everywhere would be forced into endless adaptation cycles without control or direction. If Earth's way of life spread too far, too fast, the ecosystem balance of thousands of worlds could collapse. Species wouldn't just evolve, they would hyper-evolve, changing daily, mutating beyond recognition. Dr. Zahler, the same Velcrin scientist who had given the first warning broadcast, tried to speak again, but this time his words were ignored. No one wanted to hear about dangers anymore. They wanted results. They wanted faster healing, sharper senses, and bodies that could process toxins like humans did. Alien leaders, once terrified of Earth's plants, now demanded shipments of cinnamon, nutmeg pepper, and raw cacao for their own use. The problem wasn't just physical, it was cultural. Across the galaxy, new belief systems rose almost overnight. Some called it the human path, a philosophy that embraced danger, digestion, and transformation. On frontier worlds, alien children were taught to sample small amounts of Earth plants to begin their adaptive journeys early. Religious sects formed around the idea of chemical enlightenment, claiming that Earth's biological chaos was a gift from the universe. But beneath the surface, scientists knew the truth was more complicated and much more dangerous. In her lab, Dr. Velox ran one last simulation. She modeled what would happen if the microbial adaptations continued unchecked. The results showed an accelerating feedback loop. Life would no longer evolve slowly over millions of years. It would rebuild itself constantly, upgrading and reprogramming through daily interactions with new foods, new chemicals, and new environments. There would be no more biological stability, no more pure species, no more safe ecosystems. Only be changed forever. The Council of 11 voted to suppress the findings. They sealed the adaptation sequence behind the highest security protocols, hoping to delay panic, but word leaked anyway. Anonymous data packets appeared in public networks, shared by unknown sources. Within days, the secret was out. In every city, station, and outpost. Ordinary citizens now knew the truth. They weren't just eating Earth's plants, they were becoming part of Earth's biology. On Zenith 9, alien diners lined up at human food stalls, no longer afraid of the spicy, bitter, and toxic flavors. They craved the burn of ghost pepper sauce, the sharp sting of raw garlic, the rich darkness of cacao paste. The sensations weren't just culinary, they were biological updates, triggering shifts in enzymes, hormones, and sensory input. Bite changed them a little more. Back on Earth, humans remained mostly unaware of the galactic panic. To them, chili peppers were still just dinner. Bitter greens were still just salad. Spices were still just flavor. But out in the wider universe, those simple foods were doing something much bigger. They were rewriting life itself. In the shadows of the adaptation network, a growing number of alien scientists accepted the truth. The galaxy wasn't being invaded by human armies. It was being rewritten by human biology, one bite at a time. The final message in Dr. Velox's report said, "At best, this is not contamination. This is not infection. This is a new operating system for life. And it's already running." It started quietly. No explosions, no battleships in orbit, no declarations of war, just meals, just snacks, everyday choices that no one thought would change the galaxy. But somewhere deep inside the adaptive systems of alien bodies, biology had already shifted into something new, and there was no turning back. On Zenith 9, the once sterile medical bays now buzzed with biological readings that made no sense. Gut bacteria in Velcrin, Shalayak, and Graxian bodies no longer matched previous DNA records. New enzyme chains appeared overnight. Immune systems evolved new responses in real time, shifting, learning, reacting. Cells began to anticipate danger before it arrived. Evolution had always been slow, safe, and linear until now. This wasn't evolution by natural selection anymore. This was adaptive acceleration, triggered by Earth's microbial blueprint, and carried forward by the simple act of eating. Dr. Velox and her team stopped trying to contain it. There was no point. Every quarantine failed. Every sterilization attempt backfired. The adaptation vectors weren't just in the food, they were in shared air, on utensils, on clothing fibers. They traveled through breath, sweat, and touch. The change wasn't a virus, it wasn't a disease, it was a biological conversation, and everyone was part of it now. On colony worlds, reports poured in. Predators that once killed for food now paused, sniffed the air, and realized their prey was adapting too quickly to catch. Herbivores developed faster reflexes, new digestive organs, chemical defenses that had never existed before. On mining planets, workers found themselves resistant to radiation after snacking on Earth's bitter plants. Their gut flora had adjusted, converting dangerous compounds into protection at a speed that broke every scientific law known to the galaxy. Leaders held emergency meetings, but the political systems were useless. Laws could not stop microbes. Border controls meant nothing to bacteria. Cultural traditions collapsed overnight. Old taboos about purity and biology crumbled, replaced by something new, the hunger for change. Alien chefs became rock stars, experimenting with Earth's most dangerous ingredients. Underground biotech forums shared recipes, not just for meals, but for upgrades. Cinnamon and chili weren't just food, they were evolutionary catalysts. A single sip of garlic-infused tea could change your metabolic speed. A bite of raw cacao could alter neural chemistry. On Velcrin homeworlds, biohackers created festivals where beings lined up to test their limits, sampling earth plants to trigger the next stage of personal transformation. They called it the shift, but there were warnings too. Not everyone adapted smoothly. Some species mutated in ways no one predicted. New senses appeared. Some lost their need for sleep. Others gained extra visual spectrums, seeing wavelengths that had no names. In rare cases, individuals merged bacterial systems with their nervous networks, creating semi-symbiotic consciousness, where the line between host and microbe disappeared completely. Some found this terrifying, others called. It progressed in secret. The Council of 11 met again, this time without cameras or public records. The galaxy's most powerful leaders whispered in fear. They knew what was coming. Evolution could no longer be controlled. The biological tree of life had shattered into infinite new branches. The universe was no longer a place of fixed forms. It was a living, shifting system, growing and rewriting itself faster than anyone could model. A new scientific term emerged: dynamic species. Flux. It described life forms that no longer held a stable genetic identity. Beings who changed daily, weekly, adapting at speeds that defied biology textbooks. There was no cure because there was no sickness. There was no outbreak to contain because this wasn't a plague. It was simply the next step in life, and it had started with Earth's plants back on Zenith 9. Ambassador Rax of the Graxian Archives recorded a personal log entry that leaked to the public 3 days later. His words would be repeated in thousands of broadcasts. For centuries, we built walls around biology. We tried to protect our species from mutation, from chaos, from risk. We forgot that life is not safe. Life is about change. And now, change has come for all of us. Across the galaxy, food markets transformed into biotech hubs. Spices and herbs were no longer culinary curiosities. They were biological tools. Children learned to track their own microbiomes, monitoring shifts in real time through handheld scanners. Schools stopped teaching genetic stability as the goal. Instead, they taught adaptive coexistence, preparing young minds for a future where nothing stayed the same. Some alien groups resisted, forming the stability movement, hoping to preserve the old ways. They built isolated biospheres, sterilized environments, tried to hide from the shift. But their efforts failed. Even sealed habitats leaked. No wall could block the microbial network once it was in the ecosystem. Life had found a way to upgrade itself everywhere. On Earth, humans barely noticed the galactic transformation. They still called it breakfast, a dash of cinnamon on oatmeal, a cup of coffee before work, a bite of jalapeño with tacos. But out in the stars, these habits had rewritten the rules of existence. Entire species now shared gut flora with humans, forming a new cross-species biome that didn't care about political borders or genetic purity. At the Galactic Science Assembly, Dr. Velox gave one last presentation. Her message was simple but chilling. We didn't vote for this change. We didn't agree to it. We didn't design it. But life isn't waiting for permission. Adaptation has started. Welcome to the new universe. In the farthest corners of the galaxy, new life forms emerged, hybrids of biology and bacteria. Symphonies of shifting DNA, creatures that processed poisons into power and turned danger into progress. Some feared it, but no one could stop it, because the truth was simple and terrifying and beautiful all at once. The galaxy had evolved. It all began with a human casually eating a salad. Across the galaxy, a new kind of economy was rising, one that had nothing to do with ships, weapons, or rare minerals. This was the mutation market, and it traded in something far more valuable than money: biological upgrades. On stations like Zenith 9 and the border worlds of the Shalia Consortium, traders no longer sold metals or technology. Instead, they sold tiny vials of microbial cocktails infused with Earth's biochemical secrets, a pinch of powdered cinnamon that promised faster reflexes, a single drop of ghost pepper oil rumored to improve pain resistance. Black market vendors claimed they could unlock hidden abilities in anyone brave enough to try. It started with whispers, small gatherings in back rooms, quiet exchanges of earth plant extracts, but it didn't stay small for long. Soon, the mutation. Markets expanded into open plazas, neon-lit shops, and digital storefronts across the galactic network.
They called it biocommerce?
But the truth was simpler and more terrifying. The galaxy was selling pieces of human evolution like candy. First, authorities tried to shut it down. The Council of 11 declared adaptive substances a Class 9 biohazard, warning that earth plant compounds should never be consumed without medical supervision. But no one listened. The people were hungry not just for food, but for the chance to become more than they were. On Zenith 9's lower decks, a Shalaic merchant named Gralix held up a vial of pure capsaicin extract. His customers lined up in silence, their eyes wide, their skin pulsing with bioluminescent stress signals. "One drop," he whispered, "and you'll never fear heat again." Behind him, screens played footage of humans laughing as they ate. Chili peppers, their faces sweating, but their bodies adapting in real time. Gralix wasn't lying. His product worked. But it came with consequences no one fully understood. Alien bodies were changing too fast. Gut microbes copied human systems. But sometimes the process went wild. Some clients developed new senses: heat vision, chemical tracking through smell, enhanced focus under stress. Others suffered mutations that couldn't be reversed. A Graxian pilot named Hyler sprouted new taste receptors that allowed him to detect toxins in the air, but it made him hypersensitive to every smell. A Velcrin scholar reported that after consuming a cinnamon-laced protein paste, her neural processing speed increased, but she lost the ability to sleep, her brain permanently locked in wakefulness. And still, the markets grew. The products were addictive not chemically, but biologically. Once someone started adapting, they craved more changes. They wanted to push further to unlock the next level of evolution. Danger had become a currency. In the academic circles of the Velcrin Bio Consortium, scientists tried to make sense of the chaos. They published papers with titles like Adaptive, Acceleration, and the Collapse of Stable Biology, and the Emergence of Microbial Evolution networks. But no one read the journals anymore. The public was too busy experimenting. On fringe colonies, entire communities started living on earth plant-based diets, forcing their bodies into rapid adaptation cycles. Some survived and became faster, stronger, more efficient. Others dissolved into biochemical instability there. Cells unable to handle the constant upgrades. The mutation markets didn't care. Sellers kept shipping products. Buyers kept coming. In the back rooms of trade stations, hackers created biohacking kits, combining earth plant extracts with CRISPR-like gene tools and micro-boosters. The kits promised to unlock human-like adaptation for anyone willing to take the risk. Some called it the greatest leap in galactic history. Others called it suicide by evolution. Ambassador Rax watched the market feeds from his private quarters, his data streams full of mutation market ads. He knew it was out of control. The galaxy had gone from fearing human plants to building an entire economy around them. What had started as simple curiosity had now become biological addiction. The idea of stable life in changing species, safe food, predictable biology was gone. The galaxy had voted with its stomach, and the vote was clear: change or be left behind. On the planet Tyrell 5, the first cross-species adaptive colony was founded. Its citizens were a mix of humans, Velcrin, Graxian, and Zorath, all living together, eating earth plants daily, and documenting their changes. They shared microbes. On purpose. They swapped gut bacteria like social media contacts. They called themselves the New Biome. Their motto was simple and terrifying: stability is extinction. Adaptation is life. Governments tried to control the spread. They set up checkpoints, banned earth plant imports, even threatened military action against the mutation markets, but nothing worked. Black market traders had faster ships, better networks, and more public support. People didn't want safety anymore. They wanted progress, no matter the cost. Dr. Vaylock, still working in her hidden lab on Zenith 9, watched the biological data streams with growing horror. The mutation markets weren't just selling physical products. They were selling new versions of life, and there was no going back. The galactic gene pool was now a river of shifting enzymes, unpredictable microbial alliances, and biochemical experiments happening in real time in the marketplaces. Buyers whispered about the next big product, the total adaptation package. A blend of human microbes, earth plant extracts, and synthetic boosters designed to fully transform an alien system into something close to human level. Biochemical resilience. No one knew who created it. No one knew where it came from. But the rumors said it would be available soon. The question wasn't whether the galaxy would change anymore. The question was how far it would go before nothing recognizable was left. In the underground forums, one anonymous message spread like wildfire. No one knew who wrote it, but it captured the truth perfectly. We ate the spices. We drank the poisons. We bought the upgrades. Now we're not who we were yesterday, and tomorrow will be something else again. At first, the galaxy thought the mutation markets were just a phase, fad, something that would burn out once people got bored or scared. But weeks turned into months, and the demand for Earth-based biological upgrades only grew. What had begun? As whispers in back alleys had become the mainstream economy, it wasn't about food anymore, it was about survival. Anyone who didn't adapt fell behind. The weak got sick. The slow stayed slow. The cautious became obsolete. Across Zenith 9 and hundreds of other space stations, bio-upgrade shops replaced traditional restaurants. No one ordered regular meals anymore. They ordered challenges. A spicy root infusion to boost muscle density, a bitter herb cocktail to speed neural responses, a raw cacao serum to unlock new memory channels. The more you adapted, the more options became available, customized to your genetic shifts, tailored to your microbial load. It wasn't just biology, it was software for the body, updated daily through what you ate. Alien governments tried to respond, but their systems weren't built for this. Laws meant nothing when the changes happened at the molecular level. Security checkpoints scanned for weapons, not bacteria. Customs officials checked cargo, not microbial spores clinging to clothing and skin. Trade routes flowed faster than regulations could be written. Soon, even the lawmakers themselves began consuming Earth substances in secret. Now, the upgrades were too good to resist. On Graxian Prime, the military switched its entire special forces training to an Earth plan adaptive diet. Soldiers who once needed armor and stimulants now healed faster, processed toxins naturally, and fought with senses tuned far beyond normal limits. Their gut bacteria had become part of their strategy. They no longer called it nutrition, they called it biological warfare readiness. But with every upgrade came new instability. On frontier worlds, settlers reported unexpected side effects. Some could no longer survive on traditional foods, their systems rejecting old diets completely. Others developed new sensitivities to temperature, gravity, and light. A mining crew on Drax 11 stopped using oxygen masks not because they didn't need air, but because their lungs had shifted to tolerate low-oxygen environments. The shift wasn't uniform. Each individual adapted differently, creating hundreds of new microspecies within single communities. The Council of 11 panicked behind closed doors. They tried to issue a galaxy-wide freeze on adaptation experiments, but no one listened. The collapse of caution had already happened. Species that once spent centuries carefully controlling their genetics were now shifting daily. Alien biology wasn't just blending with human systems, it was competing to keep up. Scientists documented strange cases. A Velcrin elder developed the ability to taste electromagnetic fields after consuming raw turmeric root for 3 months. A Graxian child, born during the adaptation wave, displayed a new organ, unknown gland, that processed complex plant alkaloids into neural accelerants. Entire populations began sharing genetic updates through touch, breath, and microbial transfer, accelerating changes at rates never seen before. The idea of a stable species became meaningless. The academic term was dynamic evolutionary cascade, but most beings just called it the flux. Life was no longer about survival of the fittest. It was about constant upgrade cycles, driven by Earth's plant chemistry and human microbial networks. Alien bodies became platforms for endless testing. No one could predict what would happen next. In hidden labs, rogue scientists pushed the limits further. They combined Earth plant compounds with synthetic biology, creating bioaccelerator packs that triggered rapid mutations in minutes instead of weeks. Some called it progress. Others called it a death sentence. Dr. Velox, watching from her Zenith 9 lab, saw the future unfolding in real time. Her simulations showed that within a year, 87% of galactic species would no longer match their original DNA records. Evolutionary paths that once took millions of years now happened over dinner. Microbial data streams across the galactic network confirmed it. Life had gone open source. On the communication feeds, new black market services appeared. Biohackers offered personalized adaptation packages for clients who wanted specific abilities: heat resistance, toxin filtration, advanced cognitive mapping. It was no longer about surviving Earth plants. It was about using them to become something new. But deep in the adaptation data, another pattern emerged, one that few dared to speak about publicly. The changes weren't random. The microbial transfers followed a coded logic, as if human gut bacteria carried more than just survival traits. They carried instructions, adaptive recipes, pathways to new forms of life. And the more alien bodies adapted, the more they started to converge not into one species, but into a shared biological framework, a network of life forms that communicated. Chemically, across species lines, the galaxy wasn't diversifying anymore. It was merging. On Tyrol 5, the cross-species adaptive colony held an event called the Unity Feast. Dozens of species gathered, sharing Earth-spiced meals, swapping microbes, with handshakes, hugs, and communal breathing. They weren't just celebrating evolution. They were becoming a collective system, their bodies syncing through shared bacterial updates. A transmission leaked from the event, spreading across galactic feeds. Simple message, but one that terrified leaders everywhere. We are no longer many, we are becoming one. Military commanders worried about security. Religious leaders called it a loss of identity. But the people, the everyday beings of the galaxy, kept eating, kept upgrading, kept changing. The collapse of caution was complete. On Earth, humans continued living their ordinary lives, unaware that their simple snacks, their daily meals, and their microbial footprints had triggered the fastest biological transformation in galactic history. They still thought of cinnamon as spice, chocolate as dessert, peppers as a challenge for internet videos. They had no idea they were the architects of a new universal biology, and out in the stars, the galaxy faced a terrifying new question. When every species becomes a single, adaptive network, who decides what comes next? In the deep corridors of Zenith 9, beneath the public markets and bright hollow ads selling bio-upgrade meals, a secret meeting took place. The galaxy's top biologists, evolutionary theorists, and adaptive systems specialists gathered and shadowed. Rooms, far from cameras, far from mutation market screens. They were terrified, not by the changes they had seen, but by the pattern that was emerging. Pattern so profound it threatened the very concept of life as the galaxy had known it. They called it the one biology theory, and it whispered a truth no one wanted to hear. The galaxy wasn't diversifying anymore, it was standardizing. For millions of years, life across the universe had followed separate paths. Velcrin digestive systems were different from Graxian immune responses. Zorith neural patterns evolved separately from Shalaic biochemical reactions. Each species had its own ecosystem, its own microbiome, its own way of surviving. But that was before humans arrived, before Earth plants slipped into the galactic diet, before human gut bacteria began traveling between species through shared air, skin contact, and communal meals. Now the data showed something terrifying. The adaptive systems weren't creating endless new branches of life, they were collapsing the tree of evolution into a single trunk. Different species weren't just copying human resilience to toxins, they were merging their biochemical systems into a shared platform. Enzymes that once worked in isolation now responded to the same triggers. Microbes communicated across bodies, swapping chemical codes regardless of species origin. Life was converging into one framework, one set of rules, one biology. Dr. Velox presented the findings to the secret committee in a room sealed against data leaks. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her fear. Our simulations showed that within 3 galactic years, 96% of known species will share a core biological operating system, she said. The microbial adaptations are creating a universal upgrade protocol. The room fell silent. An elder scientist from the Graxian archives whispered, "This isn't just evolution anymore. This is integration." The one biology theory explained the accelerating mutations, the unexpected enhancements, the loss of species-specific boundaries. Life wasn't just adapting to Earth's poisons, it was rewriting its own code to match human-compatible systems. Microbial networks had found the fastest path to survival. Merge all life into a shared ecosystem where danger was processed, adapted to, and passed along instantly. Alien bodies were no longer separate experiments of evolution. They were becoming nodes in a biological network, sharing enzymes, immune patterns, and adaptive responses, as if life itself had gone online. On Terrell 5, the cross-species adaptive colony reached a strange milestone. After months of communal meals and microbial exchange, genetic tests showed that every member of the colony Velcron, Graxion, Shalayak, and human now, carried an identical gut core biome. It wasn't human exactly. It wasn't alien either. It was something new, something in between, something optimized for constant environmental threat processing. The colony reported no sickness, no stress reactions, no poison sensitivity. They could eat anything, survive anywhere. They had become generalist life forms, capable of adapting to nearly any condition in real time. Across the galaxy, more communities followed suit. Shared biomes became normal. Identity blurred. Cultural boundaries collapsed. Species stopped thinking of themselves as separate kinds of life, began to describe themselves as adaptive contributors to the network. But with this shift came a deeper question. Who controls the network? In private labs, scientists traced the genetic pathways of the microbial communication lines. The core instruction set, the root of the adaptive protocol, still carried the markers of its origin. Came from Earth's human microbiome, specifically the bacteria that had co-evolved with humans for hundreds of thousands of years. It was as if Earth life had been preparing for this moment all along, crafting microbes not just to help humans survive on Earth, but to export that survival blueprint to the galaxy. Some speculated it wasn't intentional, it was just an accident of biology. Others believed it was inevitable that once life encountered a species that consumed danger instead of avoiding it, the universe had no choice but to follow. On the galactic networks, a new movement emerged, the unification doctrine. Its followers believed that the one biology was not a threat but a destiny. They preached that separate species were an outdated concept, a relic of slower evolutionary eras. To survive in the new galaxy, life must be adaptive, shared, and unified. Their slogan spread fast. We are not many life forms anymore. We are one life in many bodies. Opposition groups tried to resist, but they were losing ground. The biology of the galaxy was moving too fast. Even those who refused to eat earth plants still absorbed the microbial changes through touch, air, and proximity. There was no opting out. Life had already changed. The systems were already running. In underground circles, the most dangerous idea of all surfaced. If life was now one system, then evolution no longer needed random mutation or natural selection. The microbial network could steer adaptation directly. Some feared that humans, whether intentionally or not, had seeded the universe with a biological operating system that could be programmed. The question was, who would do the programming? At the top levels of the Council of 11, secret committees began researching ways to influence the microbial codes. Could they insert their own instructions? Could they control the adaptations? But the data was grim. One biology had already reached autonomous self-update cycles. It wasn't waiting for commands. It was running its own optimization processes, learning faster than any species could track. Dr. Valox stared at her final report before submitting it to the Galactic Archives. The conclusion was simple and terrifying. Biological evolution has been replaced by biological synchronization. The galaxy is no longer a collection of species. It is a single adaptive organism, and it started with the human appetite for danger. Some saw hope in this. Others saw extinction. But no one could deny the truth. The age of separate life had ended. The one biology had begun. On the outer rim of the galaxy, beneath the cold black sky of Turl 5, the last independent species council dissolved itself. They didn't hold a vote. They didn't make a grand announcement. They simply stopped meeting. There was no point. Anymore, politics, trade, and diplomacy had all become meaningless because species boundaries no longer existed. Life had merged. The galaxy had shifted from billions of separate evolutionary stories into one shared biological network, and no one could stop it. The final transformation wasn't loud. There were no wars, no massive battles in space. It happened quietly, cell by cell, breath by breath, meal by meal. The microbial networks completed their work, connecting the biochemical systems of every species into a single adaptive web. Ingesting earth plants had started the process. Cinnamon, ghost peppers, cacao, turmeric, those weren't just food anymore. They were keys that unlocked the universal operating system of life. The final update had installed itself. The galaxy wasn't just reacting to Earth biology, had become part of it. Across Zenith 9, workers noticed the change first. They stopped needing medicine for injuries. Cuts closed faster. Bones healed within hours. Miners reported working longer without fatigue. Pilots responded to threats before their conscious minds even noticed them. The body had become predictive, not reactive. New senses bloomed. Some individuals tasted radiation. Others could smell the emotions of nearby beings, detecting stress hormones as easily as oxygen. There were no side effects now, only adaptation. At full speed, Dr. Valox watched from her private lab as the final data rolled in. Across the galactic network, trillions of microbial sequences flashed through the system. The code had stabilized. The adaptive cascade was complete. Every being human, Velcrin, Graxian, Shalayak shared the same core microbial language. Communication wasn't just verbal anymore. It was biological. Hormones, enzymes, and gut signals passed between bodies through breath, sweat, and shared environments. Life itself had become a real-time messaging network. In the refugee zones, where species once fought for resources, there was no more conflict. Hunger vanished. The new biology processed waste into energy more efficiently. Poisonous plants were no longer dangerous. They were nutrients. Disease disappeared because every immune system now shared data instantly across microbial links. When a single cell detected a threat, the entire network knew within seconds. No more extinction events. But with this unity came new fears. A group of Velcrin scientists published a final warning, though no one paid much attention anymore. Their report, titled The End of Independent Evolution, described what had happened. In simple terms, we are no longer individuals evolving separately. We are a single system evolving itself. On the human side, Earth barely noticed the change. To them, nothing seemed different. They still ate spicy food, drank bitter tea, enjoyed chocolate desserts, still posted videos of hot pepper challenges, and laughed about how humans were weird for enjoying pain as flavor. They had no idea their microbiome had seeded the universe. They didn't know that Earth's bacteria, after millions of years adapting to human risk-taking behavior, had become the foundation for a new kind of life across the stars, in the deep void between galaxies. Sensors picked up strange new signals, biological echoes, not just radio waves, but chemical patterns. Life broadcasting itself, using microbial signatures as a communication system. Ships no longer needed translation software. Bodies did the work. Adaptive convergence had made verbal language a backup system. Biological messages passed faster than speech, on Turl 5, during the final Unity Feast. A Graxian elder spoke the last words anyone would say publicly before speech became obsolete. We were many worlds once. Now we are one life form, with many faces. This is not the end of life, is life upgraded. Across the galaxy, species names faded from use. No one said Velcrin, or human, or Shalayak anymore. They simply referred to themselves. As the network evolution wasn't driven by competition now, it was driven by collaboration at the cellular level. No more species wars. No more fear of other kinds of life. There was no other left. In the final data archive, Dr. Velox submitted her last message to the historical record. She didn't know if anyone would need archives anymore, but she wrote it anyway for memory, for closure, for the sake of history. Her message read, "The galaxy is no longer alien to itself. We have stopped being separate creatures. We are the network now. Life has unified not by technology, not by force, but by the smallest things we ignored: microbes, enzymes, food, and risk." It started with humans eating dangerous plants. It ended with the universe becoming one adaptive organism. This is not the future we expected, but it is the future we have.
Come on.
In the silence that followed, the stars remained the same. But inside, every ship, every planet, every station, life pulsed with a shared rhythm. The galaxy wasn't many life forms anymore. It was one, and it was ready for whatever came next.